Over the years now, it's gotten harder and harder and harder to do that because these corporations now are starting to become owned by somebody in England, Germany, the Middle East, or wherever, and there's no connection to the community anymore. So we've lost that connection. We've lost a big revenue source for the business community to support its local area.
Well, 50% of your budget is schools.
Yes, unfortunately, 50% is.
40% K through 12,
And about
of which
10%.
they're now trying to turn into E through 12,
Right.
early education, and then K through 12.
Actually, birth is what they're.
Yeah,
Some people
they want
are
our
proposing
children
birth.
cradle to grave.
Cradle
They
to
want all
grave.
of us cradle to grave.
Cradle to
yes.
grave.
So if 50% of the budget is education, do you cut there?
You have to. You have no
Exactly.
choice. You have no choice. Real quickly, I want to read the constitutional. Oops, wrong button. I'm getting there, folks.
It's all right.
The Constitution of Minnesota clearly states what public education is for. So I'm going to read it right out of the Constitution. Section 1, Article 13. It says, Uniform System of Public Schools, that's the title. The stability of a republic form of government. Depending mainly on the intelligence of the people, it is the duty of the legislature to establish a general and uniform public system of schools. The legislature shall make such provisions by taxation or otherwise as will secure a thorough and efficient system of public schools throughout the state. Now I want to mention what it says here and make sure the people in the audience understand this. The stability of a republic form of government, depending on the intelligence of the people. The purpose of our public school system is not sports, is not psychotherapy, is not this, is not that, is not that. The stability of a republic form of government is the purpose of intelligent people and maintaining that republic. That's the only purpose under the Constitution for public schools. Now, I want everybody out there that's listening to my voice, take a minute and think about your school system. And I understand we got all these thrills we like, but what's the fundamental purpose of the constitutional purpose of public education in Minnesota? I just read it to you. And go back and think about your school system with all the thrills and everything else. How much of all that activity actually is constitutional?
Not very much.
Very little, if any. Very, very little, if any. And that's the only purpose that the state of Minnesota is legally responsible to be paying for.
But
That's one example. That's just one example of how far from reality, how from the law, how far from the truth that we've gotten as a state. And it's my fault just as much as it's yours and everybody else.
It's everybody's fault because we've allowed
it to happen.
Yes. And
people don't want to hear that. I didn't want to hear that, but the fact is, because I personally like private education. But if I scroll down here to Section 4, and I'll read that real quickly. Let's see. The second section, prohibiting aiding sectarian schools. In no case shall any public money or property be appropriated for the use and support of schools wherein distinctive doctrines, creeds, or tenets of any religious, Christian, or other religious sect is proclamated or taught. That eliminates vouchers for private schools. I don't like that.
I don't either.
That's the law. And you won't see me supporting private vouchers for Christian schools. It's not because I don't like Christian schools.
How about if we just fix our schools?
Yeah.
What a concept.
What a concept. But this is what I'm saying. This is the law. And we've ignored it. For Republicans and Democrats alike, and the guy, all my neighbors and me have ignored it. But that's the law. And we got in this mess because we refused to ignore the law. We refused to ignore the law. Refused to obey the law.
The city of St. Paul is getting $17,000 per student, state money.
Minnesota, I think Minneapolis is getting $19,000.
Yes, and the city of Minneapolis has a 50% achievement gap. One of the top 2 worst in the nation.
Correct.
And
money is unrelated to intelligence and education. It's just they're not related. Never have been and never will be. We've got a lot of problems in our society, and the problems we're seeing in our education is reflected of that. And all the money in the world is not going to fix those problems. It's just not going to. It's not the purpose of government. It's not the purpose of it's not the legal purpose of the education in the first place. Yet they continue expanding well, like you mentioned before about this cradle to grave. There's an effort by laws that are introduced last year to start with newborns, and from newborn to 5, having the state come in to every family's house every year and do an annual inspection to make sure that the parents are raising the kids according to what the state determines is appropriate for those children, so that when they get to first grade and kindergarten, they can, quote, function as the state sees fit.
Mm-hmm.
The state has no business, no authority anywhere now. Maybe in Germany, maybe in Cuba, but we have a constitutional representative republic that prohibits the government from doing that. That's the responsibility personally of us, and that's where we've lost. We've got all these little trinkets and toys of the state capitol everybody wants to a handout for, instead of taking responsibility for ourselves.
So it's safe to say you oppose those home visits?
Oh, absolutely. The whole concept.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. As we wrap things up here
Yes.
again, I want you to explain one more time the area that you will
Yep.
represent once we see that
Once
you're
I'm
elected.
yes. I'll be elected in November 2010, and my areas are going to be the northwest corner of St. Anthony, all of Hilltop, all of Columbia Heights, and about half of Fridley. Most of it's west of University,
Mm-hmm.
and south of 61st, I believe it is, but it's kind of that demographic, I mean, not the demographic, but the mapping is very confusing even for me. Kind of winds through the neighborhoods, but generally that's the area.
And 2010 will be redistricting anyway, so who
Correct.
knows, it might
Who knows
change
what it
soon.
might, yeah, it might change
And
then.
Tim Utes, where would they go to find more information on you?
Tim Utes for House, www.timutesforhouse, or on Facebook. I'm on there too.
Excellent. And I want to point out again, folks, if you have questions for Tim Utes or you want to get involved in his campaign, all you have to do is call him.
Contact us, because we're looking for volunteers and help, and places to put our yard signs too. So.
That too. All right. So today we talked about the unemployment numbers, we talked about the budget forecast, and we talked a little bit about schools. But if we go to your website, we can see other topics, or they could tune into other programs of We the People.
Correct.
And see other topics
And
that we've discussed.
currently we're redesigning and redoing our website, so in mid-January it'll be updated and snazzy, all that interactive, fun stuff, and a lot more data and a lot more information. And we'll be starting the legislative session for 2010, which I will be involved in like I was last year, and there'll be weekly reports on what's going on at the state capitol and how.
I love your weekly reports that you send out. They're absolutely fabulous because
good.
I spend a lot of time over at the Capitol as well, and it is scary.
I did notice on your show on the weekends you mentioned copying my.
Exactly.
I go to Tim's website to see what I want to talk about this weekend. Yeah,
I
noticed
know.
you did that a few times last year. Yeah.
It's absolutely amazing. That
Yeah.
legislative update is one of the best out there, and people don't realize how the size and the scope of what government in Minnesota has
It's come to
intruded
'em,
into.
Yes. And we continue to go to Starbucks and let it happen, and we can't do that anymore.
No.
We can't afford it, and the government doesn't have any business doing that.
They don't. We have to wake the people up, and
Yes.
I'm really happy that we have candidates like you, Tim Utes, out there, the folks in Hilltop, Fridley, St. Anthony, and Columbia
There
Heights
you got it, Sue.
are fabulous.
Yes.
Thank you so much for tuning in today. Tim Utes, House Representative, great candidate. Take a look at him. Sue Jeffers, thank you very much.